How's everybody doing tonight?
She just told me she was a little bit nervous.
That's kind of rare because I don't get nervous, but yeah. Okay. I need a moment. Thanks. Okay, I'm going to start. I grew up feeling like I never came first in anybody's life. And sometimes that bothers me to this day, and sometimes it doesn't. I just look forward to the future, and I just hope for better things in life. When I was 1 year old, I went into foster care because the state felt that my parents were unfit to take care of me. When I was 7 years old, I left foster care because my dad was able to get me back, and for once I was very excited, and I had my hopes up because, you know, when you get out of foster care, you just want to return to home, and, you know, you have high hopes that everything's going to be okay, and, you know, things are going to go well. Okay. I got to ditch these notes because this isn't working out. I'm just going to talk from the heart. That's what I do best. Let me start over. Scratch that. Okay. When I was in foster care, I lived with a really good family that took really good care of me. My dad, he got me out of foster care when I was 7 years old, and I went to live with him and my stepmom. Living with them wasn't always easy. They made me always feel like I wasn't wanted at times, and I've already had problems with that because I was in foster care for such a long time. And when you're already in foster care, you already feel like you wasn't wanted in the first place. So when I went back home and I started to feel like that again, it was really hard for me. My dad often put my stepmom before me, and she, you know, emotionally abused me and took her frustrations out on me. And so as the years went on, this had always occurred. And so as I got older, I got 13, I got a chance to reunite with my mother again. And so I got to know her for like the first time, and there was a lot of problems at home, so I confided in her a lot about a lot of the things that were going on. And, you know, things happened, but when I was 13, she happened to pass away. And so I was really upset by that because I couldn't confide in her anymore about problems, and I had just begun to know her. And so that was pretty hard for me. And so after that, things took a turn for the worse at home. And my stepmom would make suggestions like you could get out and stuff like that. So, you know, one day I just thought to myself, living anywhere else would be better than here. So I packed my stuff and I moved out. And since I was 13 to 17, I stayed with different people and friends, and they did the best they could and took care of me. And also at that time, I was in school, but I didn't put my best efforts in school because I always had to take care of myself first. And as a young person, that's not easy to do, to always take care of yourself first and know that you don't have anyone to go to for help. And so I stayed strong and I got through it. And so later on in life, I ended up getting a GED. So I got 4 tests, and thank you. Now my last test was very important. I never knew getting my GED would mean so much. So the last test, I learned from friends about the Orion Center, which is a youth care program. And I started going to Orion Center, and everything was fine. And 2 months into going to Orion Center, I was staying with a friend, and I learned that I was going to be evicted. And so this would be the first time I wouldn't have any place to go or like have an idea or try to buy time. And so I confided in my GED counselor, and she told me about Shelter, which was a youth care program. And so later that day, I went to the shelter, and I talked to them about my situation, and they let me move in that night. And at first, I was really embarrassed because I was in a shelter, and I would think to myself, I wish that I could have a normal life like normal kids and not have to be in a shelter, or wish I could go home to a family and eat dinner and get my lunch packed and stuff. But sometimes in life that doesn't always happen. And sometimes at the shelter, I would be very sad. And I would feel alone. And I would feel like no one cared for me. And I asked myself, why? Why did this happen to me? But I stayed strong, and I would be positive because the people at the shelter were positive every day, and they set a good example for me every day. And one thing I want to share with you guys that shelter did for me is I gained my last GED test, and they threw a party for me. It was a small party, but it meant a lot to me because no one had taken out the time in years to throw a birthday or anything for me. And it meant as much that they would take out the time to throw a party for me. And I had only gotten my GED, not even a high school diploma. And they still threw a party for me anyway. And that was a very positive thing that they did for me. So I'm glad that I went into youth care. From youth care, I went into a group home called Pathways. And in Pathways is when they opened up many doors for me. And I learned many opportunities and got to experience things from being in youth care, and I've turned my life around drastically since then. Okay, now I'm going to use a note card. Okay. But youth care's always had my back, and I learned that the Northwest Children's Fund has been funding youth care for 25 years. Also, youth care was one of the first organizations that Northwest Children's Fund funded. And I also, back in January, got the opportunity to speak for Northwest Children's Fund and was very touched by the stories of other organizations that they had helped. And I learned that Northwest Children's Fund has had the back of so many other organizations. Just like I know tonight you guys will have the back of Northwest Children's Fund. And before I leave, I just want to say one more thing. It means a lot to me that you guys would take the time to come out, just to sit down. Even though you're at a silent auction, you still sat down and you listened to my story. And that means a lot to me. That when you guys donate and you help young people like me, you may not know, but that means a lot. And if I can say it for the voice of the other youth, I would just like to say thank you for your donations, for your time, for even caring a little bit, even if you don't donate, just for sitting here and listening to me. And I appreciate that, and I thank you guys for that, and you guys have a wonderful night, and thank you for your time.
Smile, girl. You did great.